And we're back. Time to head to the phones. We're going to start Grand Rapids, Michigan with Matt. I'm glad you called, sir. It's great to have you on the program. Hello.
Hey, Diddles, Happy New Year.
Thank you. Same to you, sir.
Hey, you mentioned something a short time ago about the fact that the GOP lacked some courage, and I called to see if you could expand upon that. And I guess what I'm getting at is I think that's why the crosshairs are aimed right at Trump. It's because he does wear that medal of courage that the Cowardly Lion didn't have initially. And I think the whole GOP feels, not to feel itself, but the establishment rather, wishes that they could wear it too. And they're I don't know if they're envious or jealous, but they just can't seem to garner the conviction that is necessary to do what's right to lead the country.
So there are three questions there, essentially, or 3 points?
I'll let you sort that out, I guess.
The first one on courage, the fact that the Republican Party doesn't seem to have it kind of looks that way. There are two things happening here, and look, I'm sorry to be repetitive here, but I've been asked. I was going to repeat some of the stuff I said in the first hour. The Republican Party, as we know, does not like its base. Jeb Bush claimed he was going to get the nomination without the support of the base. The way he was going to do it with money. He was going to be the biggest fundraiser. He was going to have more money than anybody else. He was going to scare other people out. Then all the other conservative entrants were supposed to cancel each other out by dividing up all their support and dividing up all the money. At the end of the process, Jeb would be the last guy standing because he had the donor money. So the donor class was going to be responsible for nominating our nominee, for selecting our nominee. Now things have not worked out in any way, shape, manner, or form this way. And what we know is that the Republican Party doesn't like the Republican base. They don't like conservatism. But there's something else that we've learned. And again, I hate to be redundant here, but if you look at the coalition Trump has put together, it is everything that the Republican Party claims they want. And they don't want it with Trump in charge of it. They don't want it with Trump being the guy that attracts it. And so it's more than just anti-conservatism and anti-base. It's also anti-Trump. Now, why would they not like Trump? Well, on the surface, it's that, believe me, folks, when we're talking the establishment, they don't like Trump not because he's not conservative. That doesn't matter. The fact that he's not conservative in their minds actually would be a plus. Now, they can concoct all the reasons they want for it, but what is apparently obvious to me now is that in addition to opposing conservatism or the Republican base, there's also this cliquish, elitist club characteristic here, that if you're not in it, and the only way you can get in it is to be accepted, to be invited, you can't succeed your way into it. This is important to understand. You cannot be an overwhelming success in whatever you do and have that be the reason you get into the establishment elite political club. You have to be a certain type. You have to come from a certain place. You have to be invited. Trump does not qualify on a whole lot of grounds in a lot of ways. And so even though Trump has the largest block of voters made up of exactly the kind of outreach the Republican Party claims it needs to win, they're rejecting it and don't want it. Now, these are the characteristics of business involved here, the donor class and their demands. There's some psychology involved in all this, too. But when you boil it all down, it is that the Republican Party, yeah, they want to win, but only one way. They are content to lose if winning means conservatives dominate the party. They seem content to lose if winning means that Donald Trump's the nominee. The reasons for this would take too long toward the end of the program here to detail. But it's fascinating because hanging in the balance is the future of the country. And that seems to have not much impact on the thinking and the decision-making that they're making or engaged in. And you and I, we're out here thinking that winning is the objective. Getting back in power is the objective because of specific things we want to do. We want to stop the direction the country's going, want to roll back some of this mindless, destructive economic policy and Obamacare policy. We want to reestablish the concept of individual liberty and freedom. None of that seems to be the guiding desire for people in the political establishment. Now, I know they desire to stay in power and in office trumps everything, no pun intended. But for as much as these people run around claiming they want their committee chairmanships and they want to win and so forth, it's clear that there are two ways they can win on the Republican side. They're not interested in either one. Now, what does that tell you? I don't know if it's a matter of courage or if it's exclusionary. Here's Francis in Ontario in Canada. Hi, Francis. Great to have you on the EIB network. Hello.
Hey, Rush. Thanks for taking my call.
You bet.
Long-time listener, second-time caller. The first time I think we spoke, you and I didn't see eye to eye, but I'm hoping we can push Hillary's overcharge button and start again from there.
Well, Hillary's recharge reset button has never worked, so I don't think we want to try that here.
No, of course. Okay, well, let's avoid that. Listen, Rush, you couldn't be more on the mark on this one. The fact that the Republican Party is absolutely poised to once again attempt to snatch defeat from the jaws of victory. The idea of running away from Donald Trump, I'm not a Donald Trump supporter. To be honest with you, I don't think Donald Trump would be effective in a general election. But his message is clearly resonating with the American people. The idea that the Republican Party, the establishment, would want to run away from that message is ludicrous. Donald Trump, his message, whether you like it or not, is resonating. You want the independent vote, but you can't run away from the base. You can't run away from the Republican vote. And where are Donald Trump was accused by Hillary Clinton of being a propaganda tool for ISIS. This one, to me, Rush, maddens me beyond belief. Why doesn't Donald Trump, why don't the Republican Party grab onto this and run with it?
Oh, you haven't heard.
The fact that ISIS doesn't like Donald Trump.
Wait a minute, you haven't heard. Hey, that's nothing. Have you heard that Jane Mayer's got a book and the New York Times picked it up? Are you aware that the father of the Koch brothers built the third largest oil refinery for the Nazis?
Oh, yeah. What a great quote-unquote recruitment tool.
Well, but the fact is, he didn't. They're totally making this up. They're making, but Hillary has joined in this fray by referring the Nazi past or whatever Hillary supporters have. So I don't know when you see this kind of stuff. Now the Koch brothers don't have a candidate. Koch brothers are upset that they don't have any influence anymore. Did you see that? Yeah, this was the most amazing thing. It was an interview in the Politico last week. Charles Koch of the Koch brothers said he was beside himself. He said they've spent money, they do all these seminars, they have all of these get-togethers, and he's never had less influence in a presidential race than he has this year, this time around. He doesn't like Trump because of what Trump said about Muslims, or what he thinks Trump said about Muslims. He thinks Trump wants to limit all Muslims coming into the country, so I don't know how that works with freedom. He's not totally correct in understanding what Trump said about that and why. But that's a degree to which everything here has been turned upside down, establishment-wise. The people, the donors, the fundraisers, the big money people are all running around scratching their heads, asking themselves, what's happened to our power? What has happened to our influence? Why aren't we factors? And believe me, they're asking this. You can't understand how frustrated they are they've been unable to stop Trump. That's got them so bugabooed. It has got them so flummoxed they don't understand it, and they're frustrated. The consultants, the other candidates, they think that Donald Trump should have been rejected after his opening speech at Trump Tower. His announcement speech, they thought he would be disqualified. They laughed. They thought it was a comedy routine. They have been stymied since day one of the Trump campaign. And to this day, I'm here to tell you that many of them still think he's going to implode. Many of them still think that he's not going to finish this race, that he's not going to be there in the end. They're coming at it from a state of denial, but they're beside themselves in their inability to understand what happened to their influence, to their power. I mean, all of this money they've given to Jeb, and what's to show for it? And all the money they've given to Kasich, and all the money they've given to all of them. And here's a guy who's not spending any money by comparison. Donald Trump running away with it. I said this, well, a number of times, last week being the most recent. The disconnect, and this is really the explanation for all of this. It's the explanation for Nikki Haley last night. The disconnect between the governed and the political class is wider, larger, deeper than I have ever seen it. The lack of commonality, the lack of mutual goals, the lack of the elected political class understanding the frame of mind of a majority of the American people. I've never seen people elected and serving in office as out of touch with the pulse of the country in my life. Now, I don't know about before I was alive. I'm sure there have been other times. Throw the Civil War out. I mean, that's its own unique circumstance, and you could argue that nothing since has ever been that dire. But throw that out after we resume states of normalcy here. I have never seen the people elected to serve be so out of touch and so unaware, stymied, surprised by the attitudes and the things that are important to the people in the country. And then when they find out, add to it, when the elected class, the political class, when they find out what is really important to the people who've elected them, they scoff at it. And they poo-poo it.